I know David Moyes is not universally popular amongst everybody. I get it, I understand it. He's not doing very well. He hasn't historically done very well. And nobody's got any confidence that he's going to do well going into the future. Why should you? I totally understand. I think too much is made of his Everton records. If you're going to look at somebody and what they can do going forward, then surely you've got to look at their most recent record. His most recent records are, of course, the stint with us and then, of course, with Sunderland. It's not what he did at Everton. It's not what he did at Manchester United. Of course, if you take those two figures, put them together and you calculate that he works out, he's got a good win percentage and good ratio. You also got to look at the substitutions, got to look at the muddled selection policy, the playing players out of position and all of that sort of stuff, and you come to the conclusion that things ain't great. But as I said before in a couple of videos ago, we had little or no choice. We had David Moyes or Chris Hughton. And I wouldn't say that when those two names are being bandied around, there was a massive groundswell of opinion and the people choosing Chris Hughton. That wasn't the case at all. I think people just went, neither, please. But Rafa didn't want to come back. They had a little dabble at Sean Dyche. They were told by Burnley that they weren't allowed to take Sean Dyche, although he did have a clause that enabled another club to come back in. I believe that the compensation would have been £4 million. They weren't prepared to pay it because they weren't. They were going to have to pay Pellegrini off, pay Huselos off, and so on and so forth. So they wanted somebody cheap and somebody who would do it. Now, there weren't a ton of people that wanted to go and work for the club at all. From the outside looking in, I don't know if you heard Jason Cundy's, let's say, appraisal of West Ham United, the ownership, but that's what people think looking in. People think it's a mess. And if the pundits think it's a mess and opposition fans think it's a mess, then you can pretty much guarantee that other managers look in and think it's a mess. You want to go and get the Southampton job? We've discussed that many times. Look at the infrastructure that's put in place, look at the scouting, look at the technical department, look at everything you've got behind you as a support network. And when I say infrastructure, I do mean a team of 50, 60 people. You'd probably look at that job and think, I can go in there and there's not that much for me to do. I can concentrate just on this. You come into West Ham, everybody that comes in has to rebuild. Why? Because there's not a proper infrastructure, permanent one, with a philosophy put in place by the club for the long term. However, with that all in mind, I couldn't help but thinking the club have shot themselves in the foot a little bit with the most recent news. And I'm going to go into it in a minute. And the most recent news is that West Ham are interested in Sean Dyche. Now, put aside for a moment whether you think Sean Dyche would do a good job or whether you think Sean Dyche would be better than David Moyes, because I take it as read that 90% of you watching this will think Sean Dyche will do a better job than David Moyes. The point is here, is it particularly healthy that this news is being leaked now? Because if David Moyes is someone call him a tactical dinosaur, if his training methods are not up to standard, if he's just not as clued up in the new tactical aspects of the game as some other managers, then he's going to need every advantage he can possibly get to help us to stay up this season. He's not going to be changed. They're not going to sack him now. There's nothing within our owners' previous history to suggest that they are going to make a really quick, clear decision now. They're not going to do it. In fact, all the evidence is to the contrary. The evidence is they will wait, they'll wait until possibly it's too late. I still stick by my... It's a hunch. I'll stick by my hunch that we ain't going down. But I wouldn't put any money on it. It is just that. It's a hunch. But I think that the worst thing you can do at this point is undermine the manager that's in place, whether you think he's good, bad or indifferent. Because David Moyes does not need to read that the club are interested in Sean Dyche. In fact, he'll probably think this is Groundhog Day. He's been here before. He's been at the club. He's come in when we were threatened with. I think we're in a worse position now than when he had it last time. By the way, let's get that clear. But he came in last time. he did what he had to do, and he found other people linked with what he thought was his job. He thought if he kept us up, he was going to keep the job. Now he probably looks, and he's probably thinking, not this again, not this again. It's not helpful to be linked with Sean Dyche. There are a couple of things, though, that I just want to say on this whole tactical thing before I get back onto the Sean Dyche thing, just while I remember it. With regard to Moyes and his tactics, there are a lot of people looked at his first press conference and took that comment. It was the comical comment, wasn't it? It was the, I win lots of games and my win percentage is as good. It was really vague and tenuous, but it was something like, my win percentage is as good as any out there. And I think if you look at a certain, if you look at other managers, my win percentage is as good as some of them. Or so it was something like that. It was not clear, but he was basically saying what I do is win. And I think everybody jumped on that. And whilst they were jumping on that, there was another comment that I think just escaped people's attention a little bit. And it was a comment where the journalist asked, they said, David, what do you think has changed since you've been away from West Ham in your time away? He said, well, I have noticed a few changes in football, actually. He said, and I've noticed people are sort of starting to revert back to some of the more old-fashioned ideas. I paraphrase here. This was more or less what he was saying. You'd have to go back and watch it again if you've got nothing better to do. It's pretty much what he was saying. He was saying, I've noticed basically football seems to be drifting away from the possession-based model. And I thought, oh, okay. Because that's what I would call a confirmation bias. A confirmation bias is when you believe something is so entrenched in you, you don't have an open mind. You just look for other things to confirm it. So David Moyes, I think, has always felt possession's no good. We sit back and then we hit people on a counter-attack, and he would have his certain set football philosophy. And I think when he saw Man City slipping from power and Liverpool moving up to the top, and Liverpool will attack in far less moves than Man City will when there's lots of crossing and things like that, I think that would have been Moyes' confirmation bias. I think he may have said, there you go. That's the way forward. And I think that's a dangerous thing, because I don't think Moyes is right. I also don't think you're right to go trying to do 100 passes, tippy-tappy, before you score a goal. There's a happy medium. There has to be some flexibility in your tactics, but that did worry me, because I thought, hold on a second, that's not... If that's what you're seeing as sort of validation of old style. So he mentioned old-fashioned. He mentioned not being possession-based. I thought, if you're looking at that and you're validating your own opinions, then really we are in a bit of trouble, because you're not going into it open-minded. You're basically saying, I'm going to shut up shop, and the examples are showing me in modern football in the last couple of years that that's really what I should do. Almost takes the pressure off of him to implement any sort of flair or anything like that. That really did worry me. But there's a couple of things, just if we could just go through this Sean Dyche article just ever so quickly before I depart. It starts off by saying there's an unwritten rule in the Premier League that no manager can suffer 6 straight defeats in a row and survive. It says, with 3 straight defeats in the Premier League against Arsenal, Wolves and Spurs, Moyes has Chelsea, Newcastle and Burnley to stop the rot. I mean, are we honestly suggesting that if he loses those, they're going to sack Moyes? I cannot see it. And they'll be, look, should they? If he does 6, if he starts the season, let's see, you know what I'm saying, the new season. If he starts the COVID season, the Corona-sponsored Premier League, with 6 losses, should he get the boot? Yes, he probably should. Will he? No. At that point, would they be able to get Sean Dyche in? No. It says the board desperately want Moyes to turn things around and get vital points on the board, but there will be limits, and 6 straight defeats would most likely cross the line. Now, the article goes on, and the article says more about Dyche falling out with a Burnley chairman. It quotes an article from the Daily Mail saying that Dyche is considering leaving Burnley at the end of the season anyway, which is sort of different to saying he would come in if we suffered 6 defeats this season. But There's no official word, is there? There's nothing from the club there or anything like that. But there have been enough leaks from the club to suggest that maybe there is a whisper in someone's ear. Maybe they're starting to put this information out there. Maybe they're trying to test the water. This is more of the same of what usually happens. And I think in this instance, it is actually quite harmful. Because for the reason I said at the start, it is completely counterproductive. Because you have the tail wagging a dog, or you are putting the cart before the horse, whatever the saying is. If you think it is in any way advantageous to West Ham for David Moyes to lose the next 3 games so as we can get rid of him and get someone else in, that ain't going to be good for West Ham. We need David Moyes to win games to help us stay up. So we don't need him undermined. If what happens is he keeps us up by the skin of our teeth, then we look at it, look to bring someone else in, something like that. That's a very, very different matter. But we don't know what the future holds. We don't know when the fans are going to be let back in. The Championship have borrowed a lot of money, which, unless something drastically changes and fans are let back in, they're probably not going to be able to repay. So we don't know what the state of the Championship is going to be. You do not want to be relegated at the moment. That's for sure. There is a certain amount of financial stability, at least with the current TV deal with the Premier League. Yes, ticket revenues will be down, but you would say at least every Premier League team is going to be getting, next season at least, 100 million quid at least. That's some sort of security. It might not be what you want if you thought you were getting 130 million or 180 million or whatever the case may be, but it's something. I don't even think the Championship have got anything like that in place. You don't want to be getting relegated. We need David Moyes to win these next 3 games. Well, we need him to win all the games. Personally, I think if we won 3 games, that would do it. That would keep us up. But the Sean Dyche thing, at the moment, being leaked out there, no. I don't think it's good. I don't want him to read it. I don't want the players to read it. Well, they will do. I might even be culpable for spreading it. But you know what I'm saying? It ain't good at all. I think the club, it's all very well saying the fans need to get behind. The fans ain't there. The fans can't get behind. The fans aren't in the stadium. I think if we were there, we'd sing Bubbles when he came out, and I don't know what anything would be like. Who knows? The world has gone mad anyway. People are not behaving normally when they get out anyway at the moment. But I just do think, give it a rest. Leave him alone. Whatever happens at the end of the season, then we can decide. Well, allow the conversation to begin and allow the board to leak whether or not they would like Sean Dyche, but not now.
You know I'm hitting hardest when it come rhyming. You know I'm hitting hardest.